My name is Taylor Peterson, and at 67 years old, I never thought my own family would try to kill me. After my husband died, I moved in with my son Jackson and his wife Amanda, hoping for comfort and companionship. Instead, I got betrayal. What started as subtle comments about my house turned into a nightmare that ended with me tumbling down my own staircase. The security cameras I installed out of growing paranoia captured what Amanda never expected anyone to see. If you're watching this from a family home where tension is brewing, give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Sometimes the family we choose can turn against us, but what happened next taught me the true meaning of justice. I spent 42 beautiful years married to Frank before cancer took him away. We built a wonderful life together, raised our son Jackson, and I dedicated my career to nursing at Memorial Hospital until retirement. Frank and I had planned to travel and enjoy our golden years together, but life had other plans. His passing left a hole in my heart that nothing could fill, and our 4-bedroom house in Oakwood Heights suddenly felt enormous and empty. Jackson had always been our pride and joy. A brilliant mind from childhood, he excelled through school and eventually became a software engineer at a prominent tech company. 5 years ago, he married Amanda Lewis, a beautiful and ambitious young woman who had just completed law school at the time. I remember their wedding day vividly. Amanda looked radiant, and the way she embraced me, calling me Mom for the first time, brought tears to my eyes. "Taylor, I always wanted a mother figure in my life," Amanda had told me that day. "My own mom left when I was young, and meeting you has been such a blessing. I hope we'll be close." During their dating period and early marriage, Amanda was everything I could have hoped for in a daughter-in-law. She would call me regularly, seek my advice on recipes, and even invite me for weekend brunches when Jackson was busy with work projects. We would shop together occasionally, and she seemed genuinely interested in my stories about nursing and family history. The house I lived in had been in my family for generations. My parents left it to me when they passed, and Frank and I had renovated it over the years, turning it into a showcase home in one of the most prestigious neighborhoods in town. The property value had tripled since we first moved in, and I had always planned to leave it to Jackson eventually. After 8 months of living alone following Frank's death, the isolation became unbearable. When Jackson and Amanda suggested I move in with them, it seemed like the perfect solution. "Mom, we have plenty of space," Jackson insisted. "The guest suite downstairs has its own bathroom, and you'll have privacy when you want it, but company when you need it." Amanda added, "We'd love to have you, Taylor. It would be so nice to have family dinners together regularly, and honestly, I could use some company during the day when Jackson works late." I learned later that despite their comfortable lifestyle, they were struggling financially. Amanda's law school had left her with student debt approaching $300,000, and she was working at a small firm that didn't pay nearly enough to make significant progress on those loans. The first 6 months of our living arrangement were blissful. I contributed to household expenses, though Jackson initially refused, and I often prepared dinner for all of us. We established a routine where Sunday dinners became special occasions with Amanda's colleagues or Jackson's friends sometimes joining us. I taught Amanda my secret recipe for apple pie that Frank had always loved, and she seemed genuinely appreciative. "Taylor, this house is so beautiful." Amanda would often comment, running her hand along the cherry wood banister of the staircase. "They don't build homes like this anymore. The craftsmanship is incredible." Jackson worked long hours, often staying late at the office or traveling for conferences. This left Amanda and me alone together frequently, and we developed what I thought was a close relationship. We would watch our favorite shows together, and she would tell me about her cases at the law firm. I remember one evening when Amanda asked about family heirlooms and whether I had considered what would happen to the house eventually. At the time, I thought nothing of it, merely a daughter-in-law taking interest in family matters. "Frank and I always planned to leave everything to Jackson, of course," I told her. "This house has been in my family for 3 generations, and I hope it stays in the family for many more." She nodded thoughtfully. "It's such a valuable property. Have you had it appraised recently? Real estate in this neighborhood has skyrocketed." It wasn't until later that evening, as I was heading to my room, that I overheard Amanda on the phone with someone. "Her house must be worth at least $1.2 million now," she was saying in a hushed tone. "No mortgage, completely paid off. If we could convince her to sell and downsize, there could be a significant amount left over. After all, what does a widow need with a 4-bedroom house? A small knot formed in my stomach, but I pushed the feeling aside. She was probably just discussing finances with a friend, I reasoned. Everyone talks about money sometimes. But looking back, that conversation was the first red flag I should have paid more attention to. Over the next 3 months, I began noticing subtle shifts in Amanda's behavior toward me. Her warm smiles became less frequent, and her questions about my financial affairs grew more persistent. What started as casual conversation about the house turned into regular inquiries about my will, retirement accounts, and insurance policies. "Have you updated your will since Frank passed?" she asked one morning over coffee. "It's important to keep those things current, especially at your age." "My attorney Barbara handled everything after Frank died," I replied. "Everything's in order." "But have you considered the tax implications?" Amanda pressed. "There are ways to structure things that could save Jackson a lot of money when the time comes. I'd be happy to look over the documents for you." I began to feel uncomfortable with her persistence, but wrote it off as professional interest given her legal background. However, things took a concerning turn when my sister Gloria tried to reach me about a family reunion. "Taylor, did you get my messages about the reunion next month?" Gloria asked when she finally reached me by phone. "I sent several texts and left voicemails." "I didn't get anything," I told her, puzzled. Later that day, I discovered Amanda had accidentally deleted several messages from my phone. "Oh, I was just trying to help clear up space on your phone," she explained with an unconvincing smile. "It must have been a mistake." My relationship with Gloria had always been strong, and we typically spoke several times a week. Suddenly, Amanda began suggesting that Gloria was taking advantage of me or that she called too often. "You know, Taylor, Gloria seems to demand a lot of your attention," Amanda remarked after one of my calls with my sister. "Maybe you should set some boundaries. It's not healthy to be so dependent on each other at your age." I found this comment particularly ironic, coming from someone who had previously expressed appreciation for close family bonds. More troublingly, I began noticing small things missing from my room. A pearl earring from Frank's old family photos, and even some paperwork related to the house deed that I kept in my personal files. The arguments started subtly at first. Amanda would make comments about how the house was too much maintenance, or how I might be happier in a community with people my own age. When I firmly stated that I had no intention of selling my family home, the tension became palpable. One evening, after Amanda had particularly strongly suggested selling the house and using the proceeds for everyone's benefit, I expressed my concerns to Jackson. "Mom, I think you're misunderstanding," he said, clearly uncomfortable being caught between his wife and mother. "Amanda just wants what's best for you. The stairs in this house are pretty steep, and she's concerned about you living alone eventually." "But I'm in perfect health, Jackson," I protested. "I worked as a nurse until 5 years ago. I know how to take care of myself." "No one's saying you can't," he replied, but his eyes didn't meet mine. "Just think about it, okay? There are some really nice assisted living communities nearby." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was only 67, still drove myself everywhere, volunteered twice a week at the hospital, and had no health issues besides well-controlled high blood pressure. The suggestion that I needed assisted living felt not just premature, but calculated. The tension continued to escalate when Amanda began rearranging things in the common areas, without consulting me, despite the fact that most of the furniture had been mine. She removed family photos from the walls, claiming they didn't match the aesthetic she wanted, and began treating me more like a guest than a co-owner of the space. Feeling increasingly concerned, I contacted my longtime attorney and friend, Barbara Winters. "Taylor, based on what you're telling me, I'm concerned," Barbara said after I explained the situation. "It sounds like Amanda might be trying to position herself to influence decisions about your assets." "What should I do?" I asked, feeling a mix of sadness and betrayal. "First, ensure your will and other documents are explicit and up to date. Second, document everything. Keep a journal of concerning interactions. And third, consider taking some security precautions." Following Barbara's advice, I installed a small security camera in my bedroom hidden in a bookshelf and another in the upstairs hallway near the staircase. I told myself it was probably unnecessary, but Barbara's warnings about elder financial abuse had struck a chord. Just to be safe, she had insisted. I've seen too many cases where family members take advantage. My worst fears were confirmed when, returning early from a doctor's appointment one day, I found Amanda in my bedroom, rifling through my filing cabinet, where I kept financial documents and the house deed. "What are you doing in here?" I demanded from the doorway. Amanda jumped, nearly dropping the folder in her hands. "Oh, Taylor, you startled me. I was just looking for that recipe you mentioned, the apple pie one. I thought you might have it filed away somewhere." The recipe book had always been kept in the kitchen, and we both knew it. As she hurriedly left my room, the look in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a misunderstanding, or a well-meaning daughter-in-law concerned about my welfare. Something much more calculated was happening under my own roof. 6 months into our living arrangement, tensions reached a breaking point during a Sunday dinner. Jackson had invited a few colleagues over, and Amanda had been displaying the perfect hostess persona all evening. After the guests left, however, her demeanor changed completely. "We need to talk about this house situation," she said bluntly, pouring herself a large glass of wine. "It's ridiculous for one person to hold on to a property this valuable when it could benefit all of us." "This house has been in my family for generations," I replied calmly. "And I've already explained that it will go to Jackson after I'm gone." "After you're gone could be 20 years from now," she snapped. "Do you have any idea what we could do with this kind of equity now? Jackson and I are drowning in my student debt, and you're sitting on a gold mine." Jackson shifted uncomfortably. "Amanda, maybe this isn't the best time." "No, it's exactly the right time," she interrupted. "Your mother needs to understand that her stubbornness is affecting our future." What Amanda didn't know was that I had learned something troubling earlier that week. Through casual conversation with a friend who worked at Amanda's law firm, I discovered that the firm was struggling financially and had already let go of 2 junior associates. Amanda's position wasn't as secure as she had led us to believe. "I understand you're under financial pressure," I said carefully, "but selling my home isn't the solution to your problems." Amanda's face flushed with anger. "Of course you don't understand. You and Frank probably never had to worry about money a day in your lives." This was far from true. Frank and I had worked incredibly hard, saved diligently, and made careful financial decisions our entire lives. The stability we achieved came through decades of sacrifice, not privilege. The following day, I contacted Barbara again and officially updated my will. I didn't remove Jackson as my primary beneficiary, but I added specific language that would protect the house from being sold immediately after my death, along with some provisions for my sister Gloria. I also made Barbara the executor rather than Jackson, a change I felt necessary given the circumstances. When I told Jackson about the updates, trying to be transparent, Amanda's reaction was immediate and severe. While she didn't confront me directly, the household atmosphere became glacial. Small acts of passive aggression multiplied. My laundry left unwashed meals prepared without consideration for my schedule, and increasing comments about my forgetfulness or confusion that had no basis in reality. The most alarming incident occurred when I discovered my heart medication missing from the bathroom cabinet. When I asked Amanda about it, she responded with exaggerated concern. "Oh my goodness, Taylor, did you forget taking them again?" This is exactly what I was telling Jackson about. These memory lapses are becoming more frequent. I had never misplaced my medication before, nor had I experienced any memory issues. The implication was clear and frightening. Amanda was gaslighting me and potentially interfering with my health. Through careful observation and some discreet questioning of mutual acquaintances, I uncovered another troubling piece of the puzzle. Amanda had accumulated significant gambling debts. A colleague from my nursing days, whose husband worked at the local casino, mentioned seeing Amanda there frequently, often looking stressed as she played high-stakes poker. "She must have lost thousands last weekend alone," my friend had said, not realizing the significance of this information to me. Jackson's work schedule had become increasingly demanding, with a major project requiring overtime and weekend work. His absence from home meant he was largely unaware of the escalating tension between Amanda and me. When he was home, Amanda was careful to present a united front, often speaking for both of them. "Jackson and I were thinking it might be nice for you to visit Gloria for an extended stay," she suggested one evening. "You seem stressed here, and a change of scenery could be good for you." I knew what she was really saying. She wanted me out of the house. When Gloria came to visit for a weekend, she immediately noticed the strange dynamics. "Taylor, something's not right here," she said when we had a moment alone. "The way Amanda talks to you, the way she interrupts and contradicts you. It's concerning." I know, I admitted. "Things have changed dramatically in the past few months." "Have you told Jackson how you're feeling?" "I've tried, but Amanda has convinced him that I'm becoming confused and difficult. He's so busy with work that he only sees what she wants him to see." Gloria took my hands in hers. "You need to come stay with me for a while. This environment isn't healthy." Part of me wanted to accept her offer immediately, but the thought of leaving my home, potentially never to return, was heartbreaking. This was where Frank and I had built our lives, where every corner held memories. Additionally, I worried that once I left, Amanda would find a way to prevent me from coming back. Before Gloria left, she helped me check that my security cameras were working properly and urged me to be careful. "Document everything," she insisted, "and call me immediately if things get worse." The final straw came when I overheard Amanda delivering an ultimatum to Jackson in their bedroom one night. "I can't live like this anymore," she said, voice rising, despite her attempt to keep quiet. "Either your mother goes or I do. And if I go, you'd better believe I'm taking half of everything with me." Jackson's response was muffled, but his tone sounded pleading, trapped between loyalty to his mother and fear of losing his wife. I lay awake that night feeling more vulnerable than I ever had in my own home, realizing that the daughter-in-law I had once welcomed with open arms now saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to overcome, and possibly a resource to exploit. What I didn't know then was how far she was willing to go to get what she wanted. Sunday afternoon, 3 weeks after Gloria's visit, became the day that would change everything. Jackson had left 2 days earlier for a business trip to Seattle, not scheduled to return until Tuesday. The house felt tense with just Amanda and me there, and I had been spending most of my time in my room to avoid confrontation. That particular Sunday, I decided to do some light gardening in the backyard. Tending to the roses Frank and I had planted together years ago had become a form of therapy for me. I was outside for several hours, enjoying the rare, peaceful moment when I came back inside to find Amanda waiting for me in the kitchen. "We need to talk," she said, her voice unusually calm but with an undercurrent of something that made my skin prickle. "I've been doing some research on elder care facilities." "Amanda, we've been through this," I replied, removing my gardening gloves. "I'm not interested in moving to a facility. This is my home." "That's the problem, isn't it?" she said, following me as I walked toward the staircase to go to my room and change. "You keep saying my home when legally this house belongs to all of us now." I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and turned to face her. "That's simply not true. The deed is in my name, and while I'm happy to share my home with family, make no mistake about ownership." Her expression darkened. "Jackson and I have been married for 5 years. In this state, I have rights to his inheritance. If anything happened to you, this house would be partly mine." "That's not how my will is structured," I informed her, realizing too late that revealing this might escalate the situation. "You changed your will," her voice rose sharply, "without discussing it with us." "My will is my business, Amanda. Now I'd like to go upstairs and change." I turned and began climbing the stairs, feeling her anger radiating behind me. As I reached the landing halfway up, I heard her footsteps following quickly. "You selfish old woman," she hissed now just a few steps below me. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to us, to Jackson? He's working himself to death while you hoard all this wealth." I turned again now at the top of the stairs. "Amanda, I understand you're upset, but this conversation isn't productive. We can discuss this when Jackson returns. By then you'll have poisoned him against me again," she said, her face contorted with rage as she reached the top step. "You've never accepted me. You've been working to drive a wedge between us from the beginning." "That's not true," I said firmly. "I welcomed you into this family. I've treated you like a daughter." "Like a daughter," she scoffed. "You've treated me like an intruder, someone not good enough for your precious son or your precious house." I sighed deeply, suddenly feeling every one of my 67 years. "I'm going to my room now. We can talk when we've both calmed down." As I turned to walk down the hallway, I felt a sudden forceful shove from behind. The push was deliberate and strong, catching me completely off balance. In that horrifying moment of suspension before gravity took hold, I remember thinking with perfect clarity, she actually did it. She actually pushed me. The fall seemed to happen in slow motion. First, the sensation of nothing beneath my feet, then the sickening lurch of my stomach as I began to tumble. My right shoulder hit the wall of the stairwell, spinning me further off balance. My attempts to grab the banister failed as momentum carried me forward. Each step struck a different part of my body: hip, elbow, ribs, head. A cascade of sharp pain as I tumbled down all 14 steps to the bottom. I landed in a crumpled heap on the hardwood floor of the entryway. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, a searing agony in my right hip shooting pains down my arm and a throbbing in my head that made the room spin. I could taste blood where I'd bitten my tongue during the fall. Through the haze of pain, I heard Amanda's footsteps coming down the stairs, deliberately slow now. She appeared in my limited field of vision, looking down at me with an expression that chilled me despite my physical agony. Not shock, not remorse, but calculation. "Taylor," she called, her voice suddenly loud and panicked. "Oh my God, Taylor, can you hear me?" The performance was for potential witnesses, I realized, as she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. "Help! My mother-in-law fell down the stairs," she cried into the phone. "She's not moving much. Please hurry." As she spoke to the dispatcher, giving our address, and feigning distress, she kept glancing toward the front windows. I realized she was checking if anyone could see inside, performing for potential witnesses while ensuring no one had actually observed the push. What Amanda didn't know, what gave me a thread of hope in that terrible moment, was that everything, her deliberate push, her calculated reaction, her false concern, had been captured by the security camera I'd installed at the top of the stairwell. My neighbor Diane must have heard the commotion because suddenly she was pounding on the front door, calling my name. Amanda composed herself quickly and opened the door. "She fell down the stairs," Amanda explained, tears now appearing on command. "The ambulance is on the way." Diane rushed to my side, genuinely horrified. "Taylor, don't move, sweetheart. Help is coming." I tried to speak to tell her what really happened, but the pain was overwhelming and I could only manage a whimper. The room was starting to fade around the edges as shock set in. The paramedics arrived within minutes, efficiently stabilizing my neck and assessing my injuries. I remember fragments of their examination. Lights shined in my eyes, questions about my name, and the date, gentle hands immobilizing my limbs before transferring me to a stretcher. "Looks like a broken hip for sure," one paramedic said to another. "Possible concussion. Multiple contusions." "She's been having balance issues lately," Amanda interjected smoothly. "I've been so worried about these stairs." Even through my pain, the calculated nature of her lies infuriated me. I managed to whisper. She pushed me to the female paramedic, leaning close to check my vitals. But in the chaos of the moment, with Amanda hovering nearby, I couldn't tell if she heard me or understood. The ambulance ride was a blur of motion and pain. At the hospital, I was whisked away for x-rays and scans while drifting in and out of consciousness. The diagnosis confirmed what the paramedics suspected: a broken hip requiring immediate surgery, a fractured wrist, 3 cracked ribs, and a concussion. I remember a doctor asking about the nature of my fall, his brow furrowing slightly, when Amanda explained I had simply lost my balance. "These injuries are quite severe for a simple fall," he noted. "The pattern of bruising suggests considerable force." "She fell from the very top," Amanda explained quickly. "It's a steep staircase." As they prepared me for surgery, I managed to ask a nurse to call my sister Gloria. The pain medication they administered soon pulled me under, and I surrendered to unconsciousness, my last thoughts: focused on the security footage that would reveal the truth. I awoke hours later in a recovery room, groggy and disoriented, but immediately aware of voices arguing nearby. Gloria's distinctive tone raised in anger. "I find it very hard to believe she just fell," Gloria was saying. "My sister has never had balance problems in her life." "With all due respect, you don't live with her," Amanda responded, her voice tight with false patience. "She's been increasingly unsteady lately. Jackson and I have been concerned for months." "Then where is Jackson now?" "I've been trying to reach him, but he's in meetings in Seattle. He's catching the first flight back." As my consciousness fully returned, I managed to signal to a nurse that I was awake. The argument outside my door ceased, as both women entered my room, Gloria rushing to my side while Amanda hung back her concerned expression, not quite reaching her eyes. "Taylor, thank God," Gloria said, taking my hand gently. "How are you feeling?" Like I fell down a flight of stairs, I managed weakly, my eyes fixed on Amanda. Or rather, like I was pushed. Amanda's face drained of color, but she quickly recovered. "The medication is confusing her," she told the nurse. "The doctor said confusion might be a side effect of the concussion and anesthesia." The nurse nodded sympathetically, but gave me a searching look. "Mrs. Peterson, do you know where you are?" "Hospital. After surgery for my hip," I replied clearly. "And I'm not confused about what happened." Before I could say more, the doctor entered to check my progress, and the conversation was cut short. As he explained the surgery and recovery process, I gathered my strength for what I knew would be a difficult battle ahead. Not just for my physical recovery, but for the truth. When the doctor and nurse left, and only Gloria and Amanda remained in the room, I looked directly at my sister and said as clearly as I could, "Check the security cameras at the top of the stairs. Everything is there." Gloria's eyes widened slightly, in understanding, while Amanda's expression shifted from false concern to unmistakable fear. After I told Gloria about the security cameras, she wasted no time. While Amanda was distracted, speaking with a doctor in the hallway, Gloria called my nephew Patrick, who worked in IT. "I need you to go to Taylor's house immediately," I overheard her saying. "There are security cameras that need to be checked. The login information should be in her desk drawer in a blue folder." Amanda returned, clearly suspicious of Gloria's hushed phone conversation, but said nothing. The tension in the hospital room was palpable as we waited for Jackson to arrive from Seattle. I drifted in and out of sleep, the pain medication, making it difficult to stay alert, but each time I woke, either Gloria or a nurse was by my side, ensuring I was never alone with Amanda. By evening, Patrick had retrieved the footage and sent it to Gloria's phone. She watched it in the hospital corridor, and when she returned to my room, her face was ashen. "I've called the police," she said simply, her voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "They're on their way." Amanda, who had been flipping through a magazine and pretending not to listen, looked up sharply. "Police, what for? It was an accident." Gloria held up her phone. "An accident? Is that what you call deliberately pushing a 67-year-old woman down a flight of stairs?" The color drained from Amanda's face. "What are you talking about?" "The security camera at the top of the stairs captured everything, Amanda. Everything." Taylor suspected something like this might happen, so she had cameras installed months ago. For a moment, Amanda seemed genuinely shocked, her carefully constructed facade crumbling as she realized the implications. Then, in a desperate attempt to regain control, she lunged for Gloria's phone. "Give me that." "You have no right." A nurse attracted by the commotion rushed in. "What's going on here?" "She's trying to destroy evidence," Gloria explained, backing away from Amanda. "My sister was pushed down the stairs by this woman, and we have it on video. The police are on their way." The nurse, taking in the situation, quickly called for security. Within minutes, 2 hospital security guards arrived and escorted Amanda to the waiting area, instructing her to remain there until the police arrived. Jackson arrived at the hospital just as the police were interviewing me about the incident. The look of devastation on his face when the officers showed him the video footage will haunt me forever. My son, always so strong and composed, collapsed into a chair, his face buried in his hands. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he sobbed when we were finally alone. "I had no idea things had gotten this bad. I should have listened to you. I should have seen what was happening." "You couldn't have known she would do something like this," I assured him, though part of me did feel betrayed by his dismissal of my earlier concerns. The police arrested Amanda that evening on charges of assault and elder abuse. The security footage was irrefutable. It clearly showed her deliberately pushing me from behind with no possibility of it being an accident. Her calculated behavior afterward, creating a false narrative about me falling, only strengthened the case against her. In the days that followed, as I began the painful process of physical therapy and recovery, more disturbing information came to light. The police investigation revealed that Amanda had been researching life expectancy for women my age and had looked up information about how to make a fall appear accidental. There were also searches on her computer about how quickly a house could be sold after the owner's death. Her legal troubles multiplied when investigators discovered evidence of her gambling addiction and financial fraud. She had apparently been forging Jackson's signature on loan applications and had secretly remortgaged their condo to pay gambling debts. The total amount she owed to various casinos and loan sharks exceeded $200,000. My attorney Barbara wasted no time filing a civil lawsuit against Amanda for the assault, seeking damages for medical expenses, pain and suffering, and punitive damages. The criminal case would proceed separately, but Barbara was confident that the civil case would be straightforward given the video evidence. Amanda, desperate to avoid prison, made several attempts to negotiate a settlement. First came offers of money, far less than my medical expenses would cost, coupled with pleas for mercy. "She's willing to pay $50,000 if you'll drop the charges," her attorney informed Barbara during an early discussion. "My client nearly died and faces months of painful recovery," Barbara responded coolly. "$50,000 doesn't begin to cover the damage done, and the criminal charges aren't ours to drop." When financial offers failed, Amanda's strategy shifted to threats. Through her attorney, she suggested she would claim elder abuse on my part, alleging I had been emotionally manipulative and had threatened to disinherit Jackson if he didn't divorce her. "Let her try," Barbara advised when I expressed concern about these threats. "The video speaks for itself, and Jackson will testify to the truth. Her credibility is non-existent at this point." My recovery process was grueling. At 67, healing from a broken hip and multiple other injuries took time and determination. Each physical therapy session was an exercise in endurance, pushing through pain to regain mobility. The hospital staff marveled at my resilience, but there were dark moments when the emotional trauma of being attacked by family overwhelmed the physical pain. Jackson visited daily, his own guilt and grief, evident in the dark circles under his eyes and his lost weight. He had taken a leave of absence from work to help with my care and to deal with the legal and financial mess Amanda had created. "I filed for divorce," he told me one afternoon, as he helped me practice walking with a walker. "I've already moved her things out of the condo." "I'm sorry it came to this," I said sincerely. Despite everything I knew, he had loved her once. "Don't be sorry, Mom. I'm the one who's sorry. I brought her into our lives. I didn't listen when you tried to tell me something was wrong." While I was still in the rehabilitation facility, we discovered that Amanda had attempted to access my financial accounts during my hospitalization. She had gone to my bank with a forged power of attorney document, claiming I had signed it before my accident. Thankfully, the bank manager knew me personally and found the situation suspicious enough to call Barbara, who quickly put a stop to it. The extent of Amanda's financial desperation became increasingly clear. Beyond her gambling debts, she had been stealing from her law firm's client trust accounts, a serious ethical violation that would certainly end her legal career. Her firm had already suspended her, pending an investigation, and the State Bar Association was preparing disbarment proceedings. As my physical strength returned, so did my determination to see justice done. Despite suggestions from some friends that pursuing the case might be too stressful at my age, I was resolute. "She tried to kill me for money," I told Barbara firmly. "I won't let that go unpunished, not just for me, but for any other vulnerable person she might target in the future." Barbara nodded approvingly. Taylor, in all my years of practice, I've rarely seen someone with your courage. We're going to win this case, and Amanda is going to face the consequences of her actions. 3 months after the incident, as I finally returned home with a cane and a renewed appreciation for life, I was ready to face whatever legal battles lay ahead, secure in the knowledge that the truth was on my side, captured forever in digital evidence that would be Amanda's undoing. The criminal trial was scheduled to begin 6 months after the incident. By then, I had progressed from using a walker to a cane, though I still attended physical therapy twice weekly. The hip replacement surgery had been successful, but at my age, recovery was a slow, often painful process. The emotional wounds were healing more slowly than the physical ones. Amanda had hired Lawrence Bryson, an expensive defense attorney known for representing wealthy clients in high-profile cases. The irony wasn't lost on me. She had pushed me down the stairs partly due to financial desperation, and now she was spending a small fortune trying to avoid the consequences. News of the case had spread through local media with headlines like, "Attorney accused of pushing mother-in-law downstairs for inheritance, capturing public attention." Our quiet neighborhood was shocked, and I received an outpouring of support from friends, former colleagues, and even strangers who had read about the case. "We stand with you, Taylor," my former nursing supervisor told me when she organized a meal train during my recovery. "What happened to you is unthinkable, and we want to make sure justice is served." The prosecutor, Denise Williams, was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who specialized in elder abuse cases. She met with me several times to prepare for trial, reviewing the evidence and helping me understand what to expect when testifying. "The video is our strongest evidence," she explained. "But your testimony about the pattern of behavior leading up to the incident is crucial for establishing motive and premeditation." Amanda's defense strategy quickly became clear. She would claim that I had been mentally unstable since my husband's death, that I had become paranoid and installed cameras because of delusional beliefs, and that she had merely reached out to steady me when I lost my balance on the stairs. "It's offensive but predictable," Denise assured me. "The video clearly shows a forceful push from behind, not a failed attempt to help. And we have plenty of witnesses who can testify to your mental acuity and physical capabilities before the incident." Expert witnesses were called by both sides. The prosecution brought in Dr. Eleanor Patel, a geriatric specialist, who examined the nature and pattern of my injuries. "These injuries are consistent with a forceful push from behind," Dr. Patel testified. "The distribution of bruising and the fracture patterns indicate that Mrs. Peterson was propelled forward with significant force, not simply falling due to imbalance." Amanda's team countered with their own medical expert, who suggested rather implausibly that my heart medication might have caused a momentary dizzy spell. This theory fell apart under cross-examination when it was revealed that I hadn't taken my medication that day because Amanda had misplaced it. The most difficult day of the trial was when the security video was played in court. Seeing the incident again, Amanda's face contorted with rage, her hands extending forcefully against my back, my own body tumbling helplessly down the stairs, brought the trauma rushing back. A collective gasp went through the courtroom as the footage played. Even more damning was the video showing Amanda's behavior immediately after the push, her calculated pause before descending the stairs, her phone call to 911 with perfectly timed hysterics and her careful checking of the push, timed hysterics and her careful checking of the push windows to see if anyone might have witnessed the incident. Jackson's testimony was perhaps the most devastating for Amanda. Called as a witness by the prosecution, he spoke in a steady voice about the gradual changes he had observed in his wife's behavior, her increasing obsession with my house and assets, and her mounting gambling debts that she had hidden from him. "I was blind to what was happening," he admitted, unable to look at Amanda. "I made excuses for her behavior and dismissed my mother's concerns. I will regret that for the rest of my life." When Amanda took the stand in her own defense, her performance was a study in desperation. Gone was the polished, confident attorney, replaced by a woman who alternated between tearful remorse for an accident and thinly veiled accusations about my mental state. "I loved Taylor like a mother," she claimed, dabbing at non-existent tears. I would never intentionally harm her. I was just trying to help her when she seemed unsteady, but she pulled away from me and fell. The camera angle makes it look different than it was. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before returning a guilty verdict on all charges: assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, elder abuse, and attempted financial exploitation of an elder. The judge, clearly disturbed by the calculated nature of the crime, sentenced Amanda to 8 years in prison, with a minimum of 5 years to be served before possibility of parole. The court takes crimes against vulnerable individuals extremely seriously, the judge stated during sentencing. The premeditated nature of this offense against a family member in her own home warrants substantial punishment. The civil case proceeded separately, but swiftly in the wake of the criminal conviction. Barbara was masterful in her presentation of the damages I had suffered. Not just medical expenses and physical pain, but the profound emotional trauma of being attacked by someone I had trusted and welcomed into my family. Amanda, now facing disbarment proceedings and multiple financial investigations, had few resources left to fight the civil case. Her legal defense had depleted her savings, and with her career in ruins, she had no means of earning income to pay any judgment against her. The civil court awarded me $2 million in compensatory and punitive damages, a symbolic victory more than a practical one, as it was clear Amanda would never be able to pay even a fraction of that amount. Within weeks of the judgment, she filed for bankruptcy, listing debts far exceeding her assets. The bankruptcy won't erase the judgment against her, Barbara explained. It will follow her for life. Any future earnings, any inheritance she might receive, a portion will go towards satisfying this debt. While the financial compensation might never materialize, the judgment provided a sense of closure. The legal system had acknowledged the harm done to me and had sent a clear message about the consequences of elder abuse. I decided to use a portion of my own savings to establish the Taylor Peterson Elder Protection Foundation, dedicated to raising awareness about elder abuse and providing resources for seniors to protect themselves from financial elder protection, exploitation, and physical harm. If my experience can help even one other person avoid what I went through, I told a local reporter who covered the foundation's launch, then something positive will have come from this tragedy. As Amanda began serving her prison sentence and Jackson filed the final paperwork for their divorce, I found myself reflecting on how quickly life can change. How someone welcomed as family had nearly taken my life, and how justice, while not erasing the trauma, had at least ensured that she could not harm others in the same way. The foundation became my focus during recovery, giving purpose to my experience and helping me process the betrayal. The first educational video we produced, recognizing the warning signs of elder abuse, featured my own story and reached thousands of seniors in community centers across the state. "Your mother's work is saving lives," Barbara told Jackson during a foundation event. "That's a powerful legacy to come from such a terrible experience." As Amanda's financial house of cards completely collapsed under the weight of legal judgments, gambling debts, and professional disbarment, the irony was inescapable in her desperate attempt to gain control of my assets. She had lost everything: her marriage, her career, her freedom, and her future. The stairs she pushed me down had become the beginning of her own precipitous fall. 1 year after the incident, I stood in the garden of my new home, a comfortable 2-bedroom ranch-style house in a retirement community just 3 miles from my original family home. The roses I had transplanted from my old garden were beginning to bloom, a symbol of continuity amid so much change. The physical recovery had been arduous but successful. 6 months of intensive physical therapy had restored most of my mobility, though rainy days still brought an ache to my hip that served as a permanent reminder of what had happened. The doctors were impressed with my progress, attributing it to a combination of good medical care and my own determination. "You're a remarkable patient, Taylor," my physical therapist Margaret had told me during our final session. "Many people half your age wouldn't have bounced back from injuries like yours." The emotional healing was more complex. I had worked with a trauma counselor, Dr. Sarah Lynn, who specialized in helping victims of family violence. Our weekly sessions had helped me process not just the physical attack, but the betrayal that preceded it. the calculated nature of Amanda's behavior, and the painful reality that someone I had welcomed as a daughter had seen me only as an obstacle to wealth. Betrayal trauma is particularly difficult because it shatters our basic assumptions about trust and safety, Dr. Lin explained during one session. But recognizing that Amanda's actions reflected her own pathology, not your worth, is an important step in reclaiming your sense of security. Support groups had been another crucial part of my healing journey. I joined a local group for survivors of elder abuse, where I found understanding and solidarity among others who had experienced exploitation or harm from family members or caregivers. Until it happened to me, I never understood how common this problem is. I shared during one meeting, "We need to talk about it more openly. Remove the shame that keeps so many silent." Jackson had been my rock throughout the recovery process, his own guilt about not recognizing Amanda's true nature, driving him to be present in ways he hadn't been before. Our relationship, tested by the crisis, had emerged stronger and more honest. "I should have listened to you, Mom," he said one evening as we shared dinner on my new patio. "I was so caught up in my marriage and career that I missed all the warning signs." We both missed them, I assured him. Amanda was very skilled at manipulation, and we wanted to believe the best about her because she was family. Jackson had thrown himself into his work after the divorce was finalized, channeling his energy into a promotion that recognized his technical talents while allowing him more flexible hours. The new position gave him time to help with the foundation and to be more present in my life without feeling smothered. 6 months after the incident, Jackson had met Elaine, a pediatric nurse who volunteered at the hospital where I had received physical therapy. Unlike Amanda's calculated charm, Elaine's warmth seemed genuine and unforced. She treated me with respect rather than condescension, and her interest in my nursing career created a natural bond between us. "Elaine's different," Jackson said simply when I cautiously asked about their relationship. "She cares about people, not things. And she admires you, Mom. She's actually in awe of how you've handled everything." Downsizing to the smaller home had been a practical decision made easier by the emotional weight the family house had acquired after the incident. Though I had initially resisted the idea of selling, partly because it felt like giving Amanda a posthumous victory, I eventually recognized that the 4-bedroom house with its steep staircase no longer served my needs. "It's not giving in," Barbara assured me when I shared my conflicted feelings. "It's making a choice that's right for you now on your terms. That's the opposite of what Amanda tried to force on you." The Taylor Peterson Elder Protection Foundation had grown beyond my initial vision, now partnering with local law enforcement, social services, and healthcare providers to create a comprehensive support network for vulnerable seniors. We offered educational workshops, security assessments for seniors, living alone, and legal assistance for those facing exploitation. The Foundation's work had given me a new purpose, transforming my traumatic experience into something that helped others. Speaking at community centers and senior living facilities about recognizing the warning signs of exploitation had become a regular part of my life, and the gratitude I received from those who found their own voice through my story was deeply healing. "Your talk saved my mother," one woman told me after a presentation. "I recognized the behavior of my brother from your description and got her to a safe place before he could take everything." Amanda's story had reached its predictable conclusion. Disbarred and imprisoned with a judgment against her that would follow her for life, she had lost everything in her desperate grab for wealth that was never hers to claim. According to Jackson, who received occasional updates from her former colleagues, she had become a cautionary tale in legal ethics classes at the state university. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to push me out of the way, she had pushed herself into a life of disgrace and financial ruin. The security cameras that I had installed out of growing fear had become the instruments of justice, capturing the truth that might otherwise have been dismissed as the confused recollections of an elderly woman. Perhaps the most profound change was in my own perspective. The incident had stripped away any naive trust, replacing it with a more cautious wisdom, but it had also revealed strengths I hadn't known I possessed: resilience, courage, and an ability to transform suffering into meaningful action. You know what I've learned through all this, I told Gloria during her last visit. That age doesn't make us weak or helpless unless we believe it does. That standing up for ourselves isn't selfish, it's necessary. And that sometimes the worst experiences can lead to unexpected purpose. The stairs I was pushed down became the steps I climbed to reclaim my dignity and to help others find theirs. In the garden of my new home, surrounded by transplanted roses that had survived their uprooting and flourished in new soil, I found a fitting metaphor for my own journey. Damaged but not destroyed, replanted but still myself blooming again, in a different season of life. As I look toward the future, I wonder about all the other seniors facing manipulation or abuse behind closed doors, believing they must endure in silence. If you're watching this and recognize any part of my story in your own life, or the life of someone you love, please reach out for help. No one deserves to be treated as an obstacle or an object, rather than a person worthy of dignity and respect. Have you ever noticed concerning behavior from family members regarding an elderly relative? Share your experiences in the comments below, and please like and subscribe to help spread awareness about elder protection. Remember, speaking up might not just save your peace of mind, it could save your life or the life of someone you love. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find strength if you ever face similar challenges.